Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here at the Green Film Festival of San Francisco. And you've just had a chance to see the really wonderful film Just Above the Surface of the Earth. And we're lucky enough to have filmmaker Mariana Milleret here. Thank you again for being here, Mariana.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for everyone for having tuned in to watch my film.
Well, maybe a good place to start is, what was the kind of the genesis or the kind of inspiration for the film?
Well, at the time I began research and the beginnings of production for the film, I was living in Chicago, and the Midwestern US has a really extensive network of citizen science efforts, particularly around bats, around frogs. And that's where the project began. I was interested in what does it mean to look at these sometimes strange images that emerge from modern wildlife conservation efforts, and what do they say about us? And from there, the project expanded, obviously, to the West Coast. And I was working with researchers at the University of Santa Cruz and also in Oregon. So the project kind of expanded from that core.
Nice. And you know, what do you think kind of like what were some of the things that most surprised you as you kind of began to dig in and see you know, kind of pull together this kind of spider web of all these different kind of ideas and projects?
Yeah, so over time and starting to go out with some of these groups, spend time with them, the project really developed and my ideas around the film and what it would become changed. I was really moved by the experience of going out with this sort of patchwork group of people, all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and spending like 5 minutes listening to frogs together in the suburbs. It's kind of like a silly thing to do, and yet something in it to me spoke to not only is the collecting of data and the contributions to science important, but something else about the kind of renewed sense of hope that spending time in these spaces and kind of like feeling the magic and experience of them brings to the efforts, and kind of sustaining our ability to continue with them, and also our ability to maybe kind of rethink where we want to go as a species and what the future might look like. And so, yes, I was just really touched in spending time with these folks in these spaces. And so the film really developed to become more of a meditation on those ideas of the nature of empathy, the nature of hope in these somewhat dark times.
Most definitely. Have you had a chance to share the film with some of the folks in the film, and like what have their kind of responses been?
Yeah, so I just screened the film in Chicago at the Chicago Underground Film Festival. And so some of the frog monitors were there. And it was really great to see their responses to the film, and that they kind of appreciated the way that the film, it's not just about frog monitoring or just about the sea star wasting syndrome, but about these other ideas. I think they really saw that and got it. So
Very cool. And how did the kind did you decide the kind of aesthetic approach that you wanted to bring, and kind of capture these stories?
yeah, well, obviously there's many different efforts I could have chosen. My idea was that I wanted to choose efforts that were sort of out of the main headlines of conservation news, like the whooping cranes or polar bears, right? We've seen the images, we've all heard the stories, and kind of like attending to these, they call them the charisma challenge species, right? The frogs, the bats, right? Um, and then I kind of chose night as an organizing principle. For me, the night or dusk, just pre-dawn hours, were a way of transforming the landscape in a simple visual way that might allow us to look at it with fresh eyes. And from a fresh perspective. So that became an organizing principle, either efforts that took place at night or in the pre-dawn to dawn hours, or dusk hours. That became kind of and for me also the night was a way to vaguely tie in kind of a sci-fi aesthetic. And in the way that science fiction films are like search for extraterrestrial life, this was like a search for life on our own planet.
Cool. And well, it just these are the sorts of films that we love to kind of show as part of our festivals, just in the sense that they kind of peek behind the curtain of some things that maybe we either take for granted or maybe even aren't aware that exist, but then also are done just with a kind of a unique eye to things. So it's both both compelling, both on the subject matter, but also just as a cinematic experience too. So just really nice job there. For those of us that are like in the audience that maybe want to become more engaged or get involved in some of these kind of efforts, I mean, how does like one start, I guess, to kind of like, if you don't have like a strong background in science, but you
Mhm.
care about kind of
Yeah,
lending
well,
your
there's
effort.
a lot of umbrella organizations. So in the West Coast, the multi-agency Rocky Intertidal Network through the University of Santa Cruz sort of organizes a lot of different citizen science groups all along the West Coast. In Chicago, for example, there's a Peggy Notabart Nature Museum who organizes the Calling Frog Survey, and different citizen science groups around the Chicago area who go out and monitor. So they provide training in the basic protocol of like, here are the 6 kinds of frogs that live in the Chicago region and how to identify their calls.
Mhm.
And then the specific protocol you follow for going out on a calling frog survey. And the same for sea star wasting syndrome. There's also groups that you can join that will take you out and show you the protocol. Like citizen scientists can go out with scientific groups and help contribute to the monitoring efforts, because it takes a lot of bodies to spread over like an area, and you all work together over the course of a couple hours monitoring one morning.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for making and sharing this film with us, Mariana. I really appreciate it, and obviously all the best with things.
Yes, and for anyone who watched online, I'm also, you can always reach out to me by email. It's always great to hear people's feedback when I can't have a conversation with you in person. So please do get in touch if you would like.
Very cool. What's the website for the film?
It's
Or
my
social media?
website, marianamillerat.com, and then you'll find Just Above the Surface of the Earth there.
Okay, very cool. Well, have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Bye.